Guys, Joshua in the woods. Hope you're doing well. I am doing good. Spur of the moment trip to the woods. I just have like an hour or two to kill, and I got in the car and drove out here. Just wanted to get into the oak groves. On this beautiful grove, you'll notice behind me not only oaks, but a beautiful forest of poison oak. Poison oak is really beautiful. It's especially when it gets these reddish hues. So today is my son Shyam's birthday. He's 13 years old. Going to meet up, and just after this I'll finish this pipe and go down to my parents, and all have dinner together and celebrate the boy. He's a teenager. I watched a video this morning. Somehow or other we had a video camera. I guess I don't really remember because we didn't have a phone that worked at that time, but we had video of him. We filmed his first laughs. We were both laying down. He's a baby, of course, laying down, and I threw a shirt up and I caught it. And he laughed out loud for the first time ever. And so we got the whole thing. I kept doing it over and over, and we got it on video. So I watched that this morning just thinking, wow, he's a teenager now. Wow. Smoking some pirate cake in a Savinelli Second Canadian. It's a little wet, that's why it's not staying lit. I didn't dry it out in time, so that's okay. Well, I just have to keep lighting. It's a little bit moist. Boy, I tell you, being in these oak groves, being within these oak trees, and I'll give you a scan after, is so different than being in the redwoods like I was in just a week ago, 2 weeks ago. The redwoods have something mystical, magical about them, that it's not that oaks don't, but I'll try to describe. The redwoods and the sequoias have this awe about them that you can hardly believe they exist. They're so giant. And it creates this almost like fantasy type feel when you're inside the redwoods. It's really like a fantasy. It's, of course you're taken to like movies you might have seen that are, fantasy type movies, Lord of the Rings, even like Star Wars when the Ewoks were going through the forest and stuff. Like you get these, you get this fantasy feel about the place that it's incredible that it even exists. And then coming to the oak groves, the oak forest, what I would consider really like my home. It still has that magic feel, but it's not like a fantasy world. But it's very grounding feeling. Oaks have this power of feeling so grounded. Oak is very hard wood, hardy. They're strong. And yet they have such a beauty to them. The way their leaves hit the light. These small little leaves, they hit the light and they just create this shimmer at the top. I'm in this canopy of just small little oak leaves that are just kind of glistening by the sun. So it's very grounding. It's very grounding. And it's as if the trees just purge. They purge you. They purge you of stress. They purge you of just difficulties you might be going through. It just really, they act like a filter, like charcoal. No other place does that for me like being within the oak trees. A couple videos that came out. 1972 Woodsman came out with a video on fear, and Matches 860 came out with a video on relieving stress. I'll link to those videos in the description. I could talk for days on that. Strong points in both videos, Of course, Eric saying, if you're dealing with these stresses, panic attacks, what have you, keeping you from doing things in life, you just have to force yourself to do it. And that's very, very true. And Match's point of really kind of tracing what stresses are doing, pinpointing those things and really thinking them through. What is that stress actually leading to? And eventually you'll get to a point where actually it's kind of nothing. There's always a way, and there's always a way to figure it out. A lot of things are like that. If you kind of backtrack and really follow the logic that your brain is pushing you towards, and ultimately the logic usually ends up to be quite false. The mind is very powerful. It's a trickster. One thing I would add too is the more you worry about your stresses and your anxieties and your depression, which I've dealt with all of them. I've dealt with a lot of depression. I have a string of these kind of worrisome depressive states in my family, and I've dealt with them for sure. Fear, panic attacks, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of it's all under the same kind of banner. And there was a point where I kind of really read about it and tried to figure it out, and read books on anxiety and depression, and you watch videos or whatever you might do to try to figure it out. But I found that actually the more you feed that energy, feed that emotion, get into it, the worse it becomes. for myself. It's like an itch when you have like a poison oak or some kind of skin irritation, chicken pox, whatever. The more you itch, it's almost like the worse it gets. So pushing yourself to get out there, like Eric was saying, it kind of makes you just stop thinking about it and stop giving it energy. Because the more you give those emotions energy, the worse they become. Try to ignore them. It's kind of like a little kid who like keeps poking you, and the more you get frustrated, the more they do it. That's kind of like depression and anxiety. Get out there, and also acceptance. Acceptance was the biggest thing for me. Acceptance of anxiety, acceptance of fears, acceptance of depression. Like, there was a point where I was actually in a lot of fear, a lot of like panic attack mode, and there was one point where I just told myself, if this is my lot, if this is the cross that I must bear, if this is what I have to deal with, then so be it. But I'm just going to live my life. I tell you, it was that instant where I was in a kind of a panic attack. It was that instant that it went away. Stop fighting it. Because the more you fight it, the worse it gets. Stop giving it the attention that anxiety is craving, that depression is craving, but just accept it and keep moving. And I tell you, it's like a miracle what can happen if you truly get to that place. And get out into the woods. Or like John said, get to the beach or the woods. John likes water. I remember that about Matches. He likes water. Forgive me for being repetitive. I didn't. Those fellas said enough. It's just been on my mind since I just recently watched those videos. So forgive me, you guys, for piggybacking, but just some thoughts that I had. If I can, I'll give you a little scan and we'll close out. I hope you all are well. Thank you for watching. Peace.